I went to a school called Emerson College that uh, basically was supposed to have prepared me to be doing this. And but mostly I had watched a lot of television, and I certainly watched John Landis direct. But I think more what I tried to take from was Betty Thomas was a primary director through the series, and I just loved the way she did things, and I loved her visual sense, and how she was always looking for a way to look at the scene that was outside the box. And so she was probably the most inspiring to me of the directors on staff. And admittedly, when I did it, a Dream On is supposed to be shot in 5 days, 5 12-hour days. And on that first episode that I directed, I think it was more like 16-hour days. So, I went into the office of the executive producer, Kevin Bright, and he took me over the carpet and said I'd never work in this town again. But, he had a soft heart, and he hired me one more time. So I did a few more Dream Ons, and Friends was difficult at first too. 4 cameras is a whole. I was used to single camera directing. I wasn't really used to multi-camera, and it's just a whole different thing. So it took me a while to kind of get in the groove of that. But fortunately, I had the best to learn from watching Jimmy for 13 episodes, and other great directors who were on the show too. So,
is there anything specific to directing comedy in terms of like getting the reaction shot, and is there anything that is specific to that kind of genre that you would say?
Well, I think what's specific to comedy is the physical staging of it to make things work. I think staging kills comedy more than anything else, except a bad performance. But if people aren't in the right place, and I think that you want to look at the scene as it evolves and look for places where other things not necessarily scripted might happen. And sometimes, it's being familiar with the characters and knowing that if David Schwimmer gets up from the table and bangs his knee at a certain point in what he's saying, that it's going to be funny. So I think it's knowing your characters and having a sense of physical comedy, and that's what I owe to all those episodes of Abbott and Costello and the Three Stooges and Laurel and Hardy. I think if you've seen every episode of those, you've seen every physical gag in the world. So hopefully you can create a little library of that in your head and draw upon them and make them your own, and make them new. So.
In terms of working with the actors, how would you describe your directing style?
Well, I think it evolved. I think in the beginning, I was overly concerned about visuals. I was more of a visual person, and I wanted to do my storytelling through the cameras, and not that the actors were secondary to me, because obviously they can't be, but I was a little bit too focused on the visual side of it. I wanted to make it look different. I wanted to make it look, more like a movie instead of like a sitcom. And then I realized that, it's really not the cameras that are important at all. I mean, with the worst shooting, some things are still very funny on television. So the good shooting only makes it better. But it's about the actors and giving the actors the security and the freedom to explore the material, and to basically, everything happens so quickly. There has to be a lot of trust put into the actors of understanding their character and the material, because to a certain degree, part of it is that is very important about television episodic sitcom directors, you have to be very, very fast. It all happens very quickly. So taking a lot of time to talk about minutia, and also then there's going to be a run through with the writers, and they're going to have opinions about. So you sort of want to save your opinions to the end, and just get the blocking and give the actors the support that they need to get what they need done.
Is it hard for you to swap hats, producer, director, when you're doing one or the other?
I never swapped the hat. I just wore two
All of
hats.
them.
You know, that's all. And I think it's if you're a producer director, you don't totally take the other hat off. You know, and if anything, you know, I had an awareness as a producer of what was going on around me, and shouldn't we be taking a break now, and
Right.
you know, whatever it is. So I think it's good to have both hats on. You know.
Yeah.